Hi there, and welcome back to the FFS podcast. I'm your host, Praddy, and this is episode number 5 of season 2 of the MWF series. Now, for those of you who are joining us here for the first time and are wondering what the hell MWF stands for, it's basically the midweek fixture series. So, we have our regular series, which is the FFS series, that we kind of talk about the big breaking news in the world of football. In the MWF series, we review games that have happened over the weekend. And for the midweek, we've got another separate series for that we do watch along for. But for the weekend, we review games, the big games that have happened across the major leagues, whether it be Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, even from India, the ISL, all of that. So we cover all of that. And for this particular episode, this is part 1 because we're going to be covering 2 games. So for part 1, we're going to be reviewing the big game in the Premier League, probably the biggest game that you'll ever see in the Premier League. And that is the game between Manchester United and Liverpool at Old Trafford. And joining me on this review is Atanu. So Atanu, let me get your, not an introduction, but I just want you to introduce your podcast because you've got a channel as well. So he is a Manchester United fan on here. We've kind of double teamed him on here. We've got 2 Liverpool fans against a Manchester United fan here. But Atanu, welcome to the podcast. And why don't you tell us a bit about the United Star as well?
Yeah, thanks, Prady, for having me here. I'm Atanu Wadhwa and I'm a part of the United Star. We are a YouTube channel. We cover all Manchester United games, men's, women's academy. And I'm the one who handles the academy and the women's part. And I obviously am a fan of the men's team as well. So Prady is here to dug out the things that have happened yesterday. So thanks for having me, Prady.
Yeah, thank you for being brave enough to join us on this podcast. And next we've got Jimmy. Jimmy, welcome to the podcast. And why don't you tell us a bit about the Red Sea podcast as well?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me. It's great to be on. So I'm Jimmy. I'm from the Red Sea Down Under, which is affiliated with the Red Sea podcast, based in the UK, and myself and our group are based in Australia, Down Under. So we've been going around as the Red Sea for a good few months now. We actually rebranded a few months ago from the LFC Couch, which was had quite a following down in Australia. But now we've been fortunate to link up with a fantastic group over in the UK as well. So really looking forward to having a bit of a chat, not at the expense too much of yourself, my friend. We'll try our best, but looking forward to dissecting the game that was.
Definitely. So before we get to it, and I guess it's not a spoiler if I say it was, probably the perfect game for Liverpool. It was a 5-0 thrashing at Old Trafford, because if you're listening to this, you obviously have watched the game or you know what the result is. You're not coming into this blind and going, oh God, what was the result? Why are you discussing this? So let's talk about this, Atanu. So let's rewind the clock probably 2 hours before the game began. So preparations were all underway. Both the buses were on their way to Old Trafford. How were you feeling before the match began? So how confident were you? You had the comeback against Atalanta midweek, but how confident were you going into this game against Liverpool?
Yeah, like you said, we were coming off a comeback win against Atalanta in the Champions League. So I was like, we can win this, but we can't take Liverpool lightly because they are on a roll. Mohamed Salah has been scoring so many goals. So I was a bit nervous, I'll be honest. I didn't think we would win, but at the same time, I didn't think we'd lose by 5-0, which was a terrible performance. I'll be honest, I didn't want United to lose. There are some fans who want United to lose because they want to get rid of our manager, but I'm not one of them. I wanted us to win. The team, like you said, when the buses were en route to the Old Trafford, I was like, Bruno's injured, Rashford's injured, Fred's injured. This was the thing that Ole told in the press conference. So I was a bit skeptical whether we'll be able to field a good starting 11. I was nervous, Brady, I'll be honest. But at the same time, I got to know that Sadio Mane and Fabinho won't be in the starting 11. So I was like, okay, there are some gaps. We can take advantage of those gaps. But I think the team forgot that there are gaps. So
Well, they had it. They knew for the first 3 minutes, and after that, it kind of just fell all flat. But yeah, I think we'll come to the team team sheet in just a bit. But like football's all about momentum, and that comeback against Atlanta, I wouldn't blame you if you felt like momentum shifted towards United. You felt like, okay, like that Ronaldo goals galvanized the entire team, saying, okay, we can come back from any sort of, even if you're 2-0 down, we can come back and do anything like that. But so that's, I mean, this is a slight spoiler alert, or I'm bringing this a little early. At 2-0 down, I thought, okay, this could be a chance. But when the third goal went in, that's not happening this time around. Jimmy, okay, from a Liverpool standpoint, how confident were you going in here? Given the past, I think over the past 2 years, we've done pretty well at Old Trafford.
Yeah, 100%. And it's always good to know that the last visit to Old Trafford, we also got that win when we won 4-2. We didn't have our strongest squad, everything like that. But going to Old Trafford, full stadium, a midweek win for Manchester United in that style as well. I mean, you know that they have a lot of individual quality players. Liverpool we'd gone to Watford, we had a really strong win there. We didn't have a full strength team. We went to Atletico Madrid, very difficult place to go. Got a really good win there, but probably not our best performance. And I absolutely agree with Atanu. We actually had quite a few, I don't want to say gaps, but we probably had a few injury concerns leading into the game as well. No Thiago, Curtis Jones not back in the side yet, and he'd been our best performer up until he got injured. Then obviously Fabinho not being fit to play. So it's one of those games. The form generally doesn't go into this kind of game. It's a world class rivalry. So it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if Manchester United have won the last 10 games on the bounce and Liverpool have lost 10 games or vice versa. It's a completely different atmosphere going into this one. So I don't want to say I was nervous. I was very quiet about everything. I wasn't wanting to lean too much one side or the other. I was just looking forward to a contest, because that's what it always is. And when I saw the team sheet, I had a few questions around Sadio Mane and Fabinho and Matip as well.
Yeah.
I genuinely feel Joe Matip has been our best defender so far this season. But at the same time, I don't get paid the big dollars to make these decisions, and it shows why. So, yeah.
I thought it was pretty brave putting Konate up there, because that's the second start, and that too at Old Trafford against someone like Cristiano Ronaldo. Granted, I mean, Konate, despite being young, has played in some of the biggest stages in world football. Like, he's played in the Champions League, and you can't get any bigger than that in club level. And I'm pretty sure he's also played like the World Cup, the under-21s for France and all of that. So, but I thought that was being very brave. I actually didn't notice Fabinho's absence until I actually started watching the game. It just kind of glossed over me. That midfield I always thought was the midfield of Liverpool. It's like you almost gloss over, because you know what you're going to get. You're just going to get three workhorses, or you knew what you were getting there. You'd either get a Fabinho, Henderson, and Keita, or you get like a Henderson, Keita. So you can like, okay, whatever happens there. But yeah, Mane also was a little surprising. But yeah, Atanu, from United's standpoint, you said you had injury concerns, but they all made it to the team sheet. Fred, Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, obviously Pogba being the biggest exception, being left out there on the bench. And I just want to know, what did you feel of that Fred McTominay midfield? Because while we know as Liverpool fans, our midfield will always be the same, and no matter who you put in there, we'd probably just get three workhorses there. For United, it seems like any change in midfield, that changes the way you guys play, like, and how you defend and how you kind of start your attack from there. So I just want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I totally agree that with Liverpool's midfield, you'll get three workhorses. On the other hand, with Manchester United, you'll either get the combination of McTominay and Fred, which is the famous McFred, or you'll get Matic in there in place of somebody else. Might as well play Pogba in there, but there are issues in whatever duo you play. So I was of the idea that McFred will play, because I think to tackle the likes of Diogo Jota, Mohamed Salah, and Sadio Mane and Roberto Firmino, we wanted to have those two players, because we don't have a competent CDM right now. We have Nemanja Matic, but he doesn't have the legs to play for 90 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I think I would have started McFred as well because we don't have anybody else, and I think Ole forgot that Donny van de Beek. He signed Donny van de Beek for 35 million, so I think he has forgotten that. So yeah, I mean, if we compare the two midfields, obviously Liverpool's midfield is up there. But we have a certain Bruno Fernandes. But I think for Liverpool, the creativity is mostly from the wings.
Mhm.
So there's a different kind of gameplay. So I wouldn't take it out on you.
Yeah, I was a little surprised also not to see Sancho. I know he's had his troubles of late, and I mean, since joining Manchester United, not really hit the ground running as everyone thought he would. I get why he probably chose Rashford and Greenwood. Greenwood's, I mean, no brainer. You have to put him out there. Rashford, I mean, he's always shown up against Liverpool, especially at Old Trafford, so I can understand that. But I feel like Sancho maybe could have added a little bit more, that unknown, something that Liverpool didn't know about
Yeah,
because you haven't played him.
sorry to cut you, but I
No,
think
that's
in
fine.
the whole game as well, we saw if we see the heat map or some stats or something, some visualizations of the pitch, United were playing pretty narrow. They weren't even going wide. Of course, we have Mason Greenwood, we have
Yep.
Marcus Rashford, but Mason Greenwood isn't a winger, and Marcus Rashford likes to cut in. So I agree that I wanted to see Jadon Sancho with the creativity on the wings, but I don't know why he isn't starting. We shelled we spent so much on him. We actively wanted to sign him for 2 years. We finally have him, and now he's on the bench. So it bothers me a lot. Of course, we can't play everyone, but at the same time, Jadon Sancho had to be there yesterday.
All right, and Jimmy, talking about Bruno Fernandes, because that's where it all began. In the third minute, he had that opportunity, a glorious opportunity. And then I'm not sure why he decided to just go with full power, shot it over the bar. I'm not sure whether Robbo or Allison could have saved the shot. I mean, both were closing him down pretty fast, so maybe he had a lack of time there. But did you feel like that's the sign of things to come? At Old Trafford.
At the very start, yes.
Yeah.
Going back to the Atletico Madrid game, even though we were 2-0 up through two pretty early goals, Antoine Griezmann and João Felix cut us open like a hot knife through butter. And that's been one of our challenges this season. You think back to the Manchester City game, you think back to Brentford, AC Milan as well. We've been very good at allowing teams to get through us very easily, and that's exactly what happened. And going back to Konate starting this game, the last time he actually played at Old Trafford, my understanding was a 5-0 loss when he was playing for Red Bull in the Champions League. So that's not a confidence filler to start with, but that's okay. But it was his mistake within the first 2 or 3 minutes because he got dragged out of position by, I think it was Cristiano Ronaldo dragged him out, which then left the gap which Virgil van Dijk tried to manage. Bruno Fernandes comes in, and it's good pressure from Andy Robertson to make him go, well, I've got no choice, I have to take the shot. But it was the action of dragging the player out of position and then bringing the ball through that made me think it might be a bit of a long afternoon if that's what we're going to allow. The problem was Manchester United obviously thought, now we've got this opportunity to attack, we can get through here, and so they left gaps. And you don't leave gaps when you're playing against a front three like Mohamed Salah, Bobby Firmino, and Jota. Even if it wasn't Jota or Mane, you just don't do that. And I have to say, I don't want to say I've been a critic of Naby Keita because he's obviously had his challenges coming into this Liverpool squad. But I thought on Wednesday, despite the fact he scored that fantastic goal against Atletico Madrid, he actually had a very poor game.
True.
Today, up until his injury, he actually had a really solid game and really came into his own, which was fantastic to see. But going back to your comment around Bruno Fernandes, that early moment sort of, I think, gave Manchester United the idea that, we can actually attack, we can take an opportunity here. And I think that ended up being probably their only attack in the first half. After that, it was complete dominance from Liverpool.
Yeah, you speak about Naby Keita, and after the game against Atletico Madrid, everyone was saying he probably needs to be dropped for probably Chamberlain, given that I think it was James Pearce or someone who wrote or tweeted saying that Klopp wasn't happy with how well he had pressed, and it was clear he wasn't getting close to any of the players, which allowed the likes of João Felix and Antoine Griezmann to come to attack Liverpool's half, and I think a couple of goals even were given because of that, because he didn't press the first guy. But here at United, I think until that horrific injury, I would say horrific, but actually we don't know. Klopp said he's okay in the dressing room, but until that injury, he was, I think, marking and pressing the hell out of that United midfield. I think like he just wherever it was him and Henderson that just kind of blocked every path of Fred and McTominay, which made it impossible for them to maneuver around. Okay, so now we've got rid of United's attack. So let's talk about the rest, which is predominantly going to be how good Liverpool was or how pathetic Manchester United's defense was.
Is the second
well, I think it's a combination, but I mean, a couple of them were definitely more United's mistakes than anything from Liverpool. But Atanu, like, okay, the first goal goes in. You're like, we've seen this before. Maguire, Luke Shaw. Yeah, everyone gets dragged around to one side because up front, Fernandes just decides to go for a run by himself, tries to catch Alisson. Alisson bypasses him. Virgil van Dijk bypasses Wan-Bissaka, and then you've got Robbo all alone there passing it to whoever he'd like to. It was basically a 3 versus 1. You've got Luke Shaw alone versus the likes of Jota, Firmino, and Mohamed Salah. Salah, Keita, and Diego Jota. So basically take your pick for anyone there. I just want to know, so where do you think the mistakes were for United throughout? So let's talk until the halftime. You're down 4-0. What do you blame the entire thing on? Or who do you blame it on?
I think the defense has to be blamed because I don't think with Lindelof and Maguire you can play high line. When Rafael Varane is there, you can play a high line. And what happens is that the press starts with Bruno Fernandes. He's the first one who's pressing the opposition. It's a 3-second delay or a 4-second delay, and everyone starts pressing, and they forget, okay, I have to be there. There's no positional sense at all. And I think Harry Maguire can't play like he's trying to press someone. He can't play like that, because when Liverpool come attacking, you don't have the legs to run. You can easily see that Mohamed Salah with one leg can go past Harry Maguire. He's that slow. I'll be honest, I like Harry Maguire, but yesterday he was pathetic, so criticism has to be there. So
he's a captain. Yeah,
don't even get me started on that one. So I think it all starts when you don't have a competent CDM, you don't have those workhorses, you don't have the positional sense in the midfield. Fred is here, McTominay is here, Maguire is somewhere else, Lindelof is somewhere else. And
Varane's definitely somewhere else. He's somewhere in the stadium or hiding or trying to get his agent to sign him, get him back to Real Madrid. Jimmy, how, like, we've seen Liverpool do this before in the past. Like, one goal goes in and then you've got, like, in a span of 20 to 30 minutes, you already find yourself 3 to 4 goals down. So, like, how surprised were you that we were 4-0 up at halftime?
I was surprised, but I also wasn't surprised, if that makes sense. So I would, if someone told me you'll be 4-0 up at halftime at Old Trafford, I would have said, nah, you're crazy. Come on. Like, it's a great idea, but it's not going to happen. But it did. And I saw it and I witnessed it. And the reality is it wasn't because Liverpool were fantastic. I've said this to quite a few people. I don't think Liverpool got out of second gear, and I don't think they played great. I just think they took advantage of how poor Manchester United were. And that's quite a scary thing to say when you think about this. Kills me to say this, but obviously Manchester United are a huge, monumentous football club. And that's the performance that you get against your biggest rivals. You know, probably your longest standing rivals, probably the game that the majority of the world wants to watch twice a year. It's the one everyone looks for on the calendar first. I know I do. I look for that one before I look for the Everton game, 100%. So for me, after watching that, I wasn't surprised. I was just gobsmacked as to how weak Manchester United looked. Because if you look at the individual quality of the players that Manchester United have, they've got a team that should be title challengers and shouldn't be 8-9 points behind the top of the league. What the part that makes me not surprised at the end of it is the fact that I don't feel the players are playing for the club. I feel the players are playing for their paycheck at the end of every week. I don't feel like it's the right mentality. I feel if I compare Liverpool and Manchester United, I feel the Liverpool players will run through a brick wall for each other. And it shows in that moment where Cristiano Ronaldo kicks the ball underneath Curtis Jones. And straight away, everyone from Liverpool is on Cristiano Ronaldo to be like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, I saw Bruno there, and then so I think Virgil starts shoving. Oh no, Robbo's the first one, obviously. Wherever it is, always Robbo. Yeah, no matter if it was Messi or Ronaldo, he doesn't care. He doesn't differentiate. But yeah, he was the first one, always on the first one on the scene. Then you had, obviously, Ronaldo was the bigger, or he's a bulkier person, so he obviously has the better of that duel. And then you have Virgil van Dijk coming in to defend Robbo. Yeah. And then you had, obviously, if Bruno comes in, tries to shove Virgil van Dijk, does a decent sort of shove, but he walks from in front, and then from behind, Konate just comes and pushes him off. And I'm like, But the scary part was that it took until, I think everyone, we had Trent, I think our entire backline was already there before anyone else from Manchester United actually came out there. I think Henderson also came and started breaking up the fight. And only then you had Manchester United players coming in to defend this thing, which is quite, it's quite telling, like you mentioned. It's sad because I'm pretty sure a Greenwood or Rashford pretty much here next to each other or somewhere around there. They could have easily come in, but it felt like they just took their own sweet time to do that. But yeah, I don't know, like Jimmy mentioned, it feels like Liverpool was a team, a united team. I say United, not a Manchester United, but like a united sort of bonded team. Whereas Manchester United are a team of individuals or a group of individuals just playing for either the paycheck or for themselves and stuff like that. So would you agree with that statement? And also, how much is it now down to Ole in terms of the tactics? Because we've mentioned before, the pressing was non-existent. If one person went, it felt like there was a huge buffer, or people took 2 to 3 seconds to realize what was happening before they started pressing. And by that time, against a team like Liverpool, that's deadly. A Liverpool or Manchester City, you don't do that. And like Jimmy mentioned, how if someone had told him that it was 4-0, if Liverpool was going to be 4-0 up at halftime, well, you already had that in midweek when Paul Scholes told everyone that you were going to be 4-0 up at halftime if you were going to play like that. So all of that combined, how could I just want to get your thoughts on that, and what's Ole's role in all of this?
I think at the end of the day, it comes down to Ole's coaching, Ole's tactics. I know that Ole doesn't coach exactly. He's always mentioned that Carrick and McKenna are the ones who take training. So I think he has to upgrade the coaching staff. But I think time has come to let him go. He's done all he can. But coming back, I think I think the part where you mentioned players playing for the paycheck, I think I agree to it to some extent. There's no cohesion in the team. There's no gelling in the team right now. So that's a big issue for me. And I won't like to call it out, but this happened when Cristiano Ronaldo joined us. There was a bit of like the team was built around him then. Ole said, okay, I'll build my team around Ronaldo.
But he's not exactly done that either, because if you're still asking Ronaldo to press up high, you're really not playing to his strengths, because you've not got anyone who's crossing. You've not got a second striker or someone like Benzema to hold up the ball and pass it to him and do something like that. Fine, he's become more of a striker than he is a winger, but you're not playing to his strengths. So what are you building around him?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, he came in, I think it was mid-season. He came in when the season had started, I think. He came in after the season had started. So it obviously would have taken Ole some time, but I can't really defend Ole right now. The tactics aren't there. The coaching has been abysmal. Like, you see the pressing. Like, for example, we see the pressing question. Of course, Ronaldo won't press, but the other players have to be on their A game. You can't let your guard down against Mohamed Salah. He'll run and he'll score that goal, and that's what happened. He scored that goal, and everyone was like, okay, where did he come from? So I
Yeah,
think,
and it was
yeah.
more irritating. But it was more irritating to see Bruno and Mason Greenwood put their hands up and start yelling at defense when they themselves were just jogging back and not really making any attempt to sort of track back. So at that point, it just feels. So I don't know. At times, I feel sorry for Ole because even I think it feels like no matter what he tells them, they just I don't know. It just feels like it goes through one year and gets out the other, and they just don't care at one point. At some point, like
Yeah.
it's.
I
Yeah.
think when Mourinho was sacked, Roy Keane's, like, it is a very famous thing that he said, leopards don't change their spots. The United players put Mourinho under the bus, and they'll do the same thing to Solskjaer. And I'm not blaming the players, I'm not blaming Oli, but I don't really know what's happening. So I'll have to come up with some conclusion. So I think this might be one of those, the players are like, okay, enough is enough, we want to change. So I don't really know what's happening.
All right, and Jimmy, we have to talk about Mohamed Salah here because he's just been on an insane form. I don't think he's even had this great a start when he scored that 32 goal or 44 goals that entire season in 2017, 2018. That came about like towards the end, second half of the season. But here he is scoring hat trick after hat trick, 10th consecutive game. Come on, FSG have to pay him. I'm not saying pay the 500,000, but you have to put a contract up there and say he's come out and said also he's not going to go to any other club. That it's not even like a Suarez situation where he says that Liverpool is a stepping stone. I want to go play for Barcelona, Real Madrid.
Yeah.
That might have been the case when he first arrived here, the first season after he scored those 44 goals. There were hints, but after we've achieved whatever we've achieved, I mean, he's clearly said he wants to end his playing career here. And come on, he's giving FSG. He's putting. I love the fact that he's putting pressure on FSG to spend all that amount. Like I had a podcast exclusively on this contract situation. I said any other player would have probably sulked about this, but Mo is putting up a better show to kind of show FSG like this is what you're going to miss out if you don't sign me up.
And that's it, and it's probably the best problem that you can have as a football club. And it's funny because obviously when Jurgen Klopp came to Liverpool, he didn't sign these big name players. He brought in these players who people knew, but are they world class? Are they going to propel Liverpool to the top of the league? And you look at Mohamed Salah and you think, actually, fair enough. And like I say, it's a very good problem to have where someone is crying out for a contract and he wants to spend the rest of his playing career at this club. And this is a really hot topic with the group that I do podcasts and streams with. Mohamed Salah could play up until he's 35, 36, and even if he's not as fast, he's still going to be a world-class player because you just adapt his positioning and you just still have the technical abilities of this amazing football player. It's a great problem to have, and I think FSG are now at the point where every week they're thinking, "Oh, great, another couple of goals. Okay, now what am I going to do? All right, okay, another couple of £1,000 a week." And the reality is, though, based on form, he probably is the best player in the world. And it's amazing to think that when he first came in 4 or 5 years ago now, we thought he was fantastic then. But every year he has been at Liverpool, he's just improved one part of his game, or just one or two parts of his game, and just he's become a lot more well-rounded as a football player. When he first came into Liverpool, he scored those 40-odd goals, but he also put about 70 shots into Rosette as well because he continuously kept trying to take chances. He doesn't do that nowadays, and he's a lot stronger. He doesn't go down as often. He's got much better upper body strength, better control of his feet, and he's still popping 2-3 goals in every so often. The reality is, if Liverpool want to be a club that continues to challenge for titles, you have to give this man a contract.
Exactly. It's all about retaining the best player. I mean, that's the whole point where Real Madrid and Barcelona were at their best. They retained their best players. It wasn't as though they were going to be stepping stones. But yeah, I think also not to forget, but his tracking back and his defensive duties have massively been improved as well. So every time Trent comes forward, he's always there to pick up the pieces and all of that. Okay, the last thing I have for you, Atanu, is Paul Pogba. I guess there's no sort of questions about his red card here. It was as clear as it probably was. I mean, it looked like he probably got the ball, but then when they zoomed in and they actually focused on it, yeah, it's definitely foot above the ball and clear studs on Naby. And I guess the consequences of Naby being injured and stretched off, that would have added more to the fact, added to the argument that it was a red card. But he's another one with contract issues at Manchester United. Take it away.
The laugh actually answers my question. It's at the end of the day, it's I won't really want to say that word, but his agent is a crap bag.
You can swear here. You can say.
Sir Alex Ferguson said, Mino Raiola is a big shit bag. So I think he comes up with these statements before big games, and then you see United losing, and he's like, okay, see what I said? I was right. United aren't a good team. So why the hell did you come here then? So that I don't really like the fact that we let him leave on a free again. We let him free when he was in the academy, when he was being transitioned into the first team, and he's leaving again on a free. A talent like Paul Pogba is leaving on a free. I don't think he'll sign that contract now. I don't see it coming, because I think from January he can talk to other clubs as well. So I think
also it depends if you probably get Zidane in. That's a big if, but if you do, then that's an added incentive for him to probably stay. But that's again, like, I mean, he'll stay, but what are the performances that you're getting out of him would be a big question mark still.
After those first 2-3 games, I was like, okay, Paul Pogba is back. He'll sign that contract. He's had 7-8 assists, and I was like, okay, he's back. We have a good midfield finally. But the consistency has been a big issue with Paul Pogba.
Right, and yeah, speaking of Ferguson, I mean, that shot of him at 5-0 was even for me as a rival fan, I was heartbreaking. But the best part was the cameraman knew what he was doing, because he showed him, and then 2 seconds later he showed a laughing Kenny Dalglish. Like, he showed Kenny Dalglish laughing his ass off. So I mean, the cameraman definitely knew it. But seeing that, he was on the verge of crying, and I feel sorry because of also his health issues and all of that. So that's mainly why. I think if he was in perfect health, I would have felt less sorry, but I felt like this is unnecessary tension on him here. But all right, so I guess that's about it for this episode. Thank you, Atanu and Jimmy, for coming on here and giving your thoughts on this game. There's so much to talk about. We can talk about the coaching, we can talk about so many things, but I guess we still have the return leg to talk about that. Like, you guys are coming to Anfield, so we'll see I don't know when that is, but we'll definitely see how it all pans out there, and we'd love to have you on that. But for now, thank you for being a part of the podcast, and I can't wait to host you in the near future.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Brady. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, and to those of you listening to this, the descriptions, the links to both Atanu and Jimmy's podcast will be in the description down below. And if you're listening to this on podcast platforms like Spotify, Google Podcasts, you can watch the entire video, but it is only for members or patrons. So the link is again down there. We've got different membership tiers, different benefits for all of you, exclusive access, bonus content, all of that stuff. So go check it out. You can watch the entire video. You can watch the video version of this rather on YouTube if you are a member. But I guess you can check out our previous episodes as well on different podcast platforms. And if you want to be a part of the podcast as well, please do let us know either on Instagram or on Twitter. So I guess that's about it for part 1 of episode 5 of the MWF series. Catch you all on part 2, which will be on a separate episode. But until then, you stay safe. I'm your host, Brady, once again, and see you.